Hi there, this is the help video for IXL skill 2HW, and the title of that skill is Convert Between Percents, Fractions, and Decimals. So please use this video if you are having a little bit of trouble with the skill, or if you just want to review with a teacher video. So this skill is all about converting between formatting. So we have three different forms that we're converting between. We have fractions, decimals, and percent. Now, you'll notice in this graphic here, and this graphic is not new. You've seen this in some of your live classes with your teacher. Uh, but when we're converting between the three, you'll notice that decimal is in the middle of the process. So what that means is if we are ever in a situation where we're converting from a percent to a fraction or vice versa, we always want to baseline to decimal and then convert to the next step. So that's just something to keep in mind as we are converting. Now let's just review quickly how to convert between the two. We'll start right here with fractions to decimals. In order to convert a fraction to a decimal, you're going to divide the numerator by the denominator. And of course, now that we can use a calculator on everything, that process is very, very simple. You just type it into your calculator, 3 divided by 4, and 3 divided by 4 equals 0.75. So that's a very, very quick conversion between fraction and decimal. Now let's talk about converting from decimal to percent. To convert decimal to percent, you're going to multiply by 100. And what multiplying by 100 does really is it moves that decimal point 2 spaces. So once you multiply by 100, you can easily see that that's the same thing as moving those decimal spaces. So in this case, 0.75 is equivalent to 75%. You can tell that this makes sense because 0.75 is not quite 1 or a whole, right? And 75% is also not quite 100%. So that's the way that those two numbers are related. Now let's talk about working backwards. What if we want to convert a percentage, like 40% to a decimal? Well, if we convert a decimal to percent, we move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. So percent to decimal is the opposite. So instead of going to the right, we're going to move those decimal spaces to the left. 1, 2, plot that decimal point. So in this situation, 40% is equivalent to 0.4. Now, the last way of converting, and this is probably the trickiest one of them all, but it's okay, we can make it work, is that decimal to fraction conversion. Now, the best way to do a fraction or a decimal to fraction conversion is to take the decimal, whatever it is. So in this case, we have 0.4, and to put it over 1. Then your next step would be to multiply top and bottom by 100. And what happens when you do that is you now can easily get rid of all the decimals that are in your decimal original form. So 0.4 times 100 is 40, and our denominator is 100. So this fraction is not simplified. I could simplify this down, but 40 over 100 is an appropriate answer. If I want to simplify, I can divide top and bottom by 20, and that would give me a final answer of 2 over 5, and those are equivalent fractions. So that was a brief overview of how to convert between all of the forms. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to sign into IXL and I'm going to show you the skill. So when you're getting signed into IXL, please, please, please make sure that you are using the correct website. You have to see, and let me use a color you can actually see, you have to be able to see the Digital Academy in your link. You can also see it with the @ sign here. Again, if you do not see Digital Academy when signing in, that means your teacher cannot see your work. So go ahead and click sign in. And once you're signed in, of course, yours may look a little bit different than mine, but you will have this little magnifying glass that is a search bar. And in that search bar, You're going to type in the code 2HW and click on the skill. All right, you can tell we're in the correct skill, convert between percents, fractions, and decimals with that match code 2HW. And as soon as this loads, we're going to do a few practice problems together. All right, so the first one says, how do you write 11% as a decimal? So I'm going to use the little pen tool that they have down here for me. And in order to write 11% as a decimal, I know that I need to move that imaginary or invisible decimal 2 spaces, 1, 2. And so I know that my decimal is 0.11. And that was correct. Now, just as a reminder, in case that you are a little bit stuck or you need any help, keep in mind that there is this video feature right here. If you need a Spanish translation, you can use that on this one. And as a reminder, our goal here is a SMART score of 80 or above. But as always, if you can only get to 50 or 60, that's okay. You want to push yourself as much as you can, but if you're at your stopping point, that's perfectly fine. This next question says, how do you write 2% as a fraction? So again, we're going to take 2%. And remember, if we're ever going from percent to decimal, we have to convert to decimal, or from percent to fraction, have to convert to decimal first. So 2% as a decimal, again, moving that 2 spaces, 1, 2, plot the point. So 2% is equivalent to 0.02. Now that I'm in decimal form, I can take that decimal and place it over 1. And I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 100. So again, once you're in decimal form, place it over 1, multiply times 100. 1 times 100 in my denominator is 100. 0.02 times 100 is 2. This is a perfectly fine answer, or I can simplify. This would simplify down to, I could divide top and bottom by 2, divide top and bottom by 2, and this would also be 1/50. Either answer is okay, but I'm going to go ahead and put in my original answer, 2/100. Let's do a few more. 1/2 as a percentage. So this is like going the opposite direction of what we just did. So of course, I'm going to start with dividing top and bottom. So 1 divided by 2 in decimal form is 0.5. Once I have my decimal form, I can convert to a percent, move that decimal point 2 spaces, fill in the empty, and so this is equivalent to 50%. And we can really look at this and say, does that make sense? We know that 1/2 of something is the same thing as 50%. So I really took the long way of answering this one. And just keep in mind when you are answering the percentage questions, note what it says here, write your answer using a percent sign. Very important, you need to include that sign or it will be marked incorrect. Let's do this one as our last one. We've got 0.13 and we're converting this to a percent. So remember, if we start as a decimal, then we only need to do one step. So convert to a decimal, move that decimal point 2 spaces, and that gives us a percentage of 13%. All right, guys, I hope that this video helped. As a reminder, you can always send an email to a teacher or attend a help session. You could review this video again, or you can watch the built-in video that is in your IXL. I hope this video helped.